Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Traffic TV. And tonight we will be talking safety. We will be talking road safety, water safety, disaster safety, all the different safeties that you can think about. Yes, we're talking about all the different kind of safety. And tonight we have with us Mr. Anderson Tuitt. Some persons may have seen or heard that name before, but they might have seen, I don't want to say the little guy, but they might have seen the guy, a very important person in Antigua at the moment, one of the most important persons in Antigua at the moment. Now I'll just give you a brief rundown on who Anderson Tuitt is. He's an accomplished emergency service professional with over 20 years of experience. Shortly after graduating from Montserrat Secondary School, Tuitt kickstarted his career in 1999 as an emergency medical technician with a basic EMT at the Antigua and Barbuda Emergency Medical Services, that's the ABEMS, where we call the EMS, where he gave 10 years of sterling service. During his tenure at ABEMS, he joined the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force, where he was a reservist. At that time, he was really dedicated to giving service to the country. Some of Tuitt's professional training he would have received include, but not limited to, community mediation training, oh boy, what was that? Sorry about that, guys. You're listening to, or you're watching Traffic TV. I'm gonna let you know some of Tuitt's qualifications again. So he's done community mediation training at Riverdale Meditation Limited in Canada, disaster field operations at Florida International University in the United States of America, RSS instructors and development course from the Regional Security Training System, RSS, occupational and environmental health and safety from the Caribbean Maritime University, and tactical emergency medical responder. That one is very interesting, at the American University of Antigua. And that is just a few of what Tuitt has gone through. Folks, having Anderson Tuitt here with us tonight is a privilege. And I have to say thank you to Mr. Tuitt for accepting the invitation for coming here. At this time, I just want my listeners to know, or the listeners to know, that this program is brought to you by our kind partners, State Insurance, putting you in a better state of mind. And our next partner, Signs and Impression, the quick print people, Upper Cliff Street. Both companies are located on Upper Cliff Street. So if you have anything to print, computer, printing services, pictures, mugs, you name it. Hey, you put anything on a mug, the quick print people, Signs and Impression, they get that done for you. Don't forget, check out State Insurance, all forms of policies, motor, medical, property, you name it. I bet they can design a policy just to fit what you want. All right, so check State Insurance. They put you in a better state of mind. Anyway, we're going into the business part of it. Anderson Tuitt, welcome to Traffic TV.
Good evening, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. I thank you very much for the invite. It's one of those things that we continue to do, I must say, the both of us, to continue to educate and inform. So it's definitely a pleasure to be on Traffic TV. I must commend you on your new venture of really educating, informing, not only Antigua, but worldwide, because as you know, we're a tourist destination. So people do come to our country and they would need to know what our traffic rules are. So I must commend you on this venture of Traffic TV 268. And yes, like I said before, it is indeed a pleasure to be here, my first time, but I know definitely will not be the last.
Most definitely. Tuitt, and safety. If you hear safety, you most likely will see Tuitt or hear Tuitt. What have you so passionate about safety?
I'm happy that you use the word passion because it goes a long way. It's a passion physically, as in what I do. It's a passion emotionally. When I see things looking unsafe, I feel a way about it. Or when I see things conform to safety, I feel really positive about it. And safety is all part of our everyday life. In everything we do, there's a safety component to it. And sometimes we act without even thinking the risk involved. So I took this part of really putting information out there, creating this platform for persons to know what it means to be safe in 6 core areas. And we'll get a bit more into it, what are the core areas, because like I said, safety is very wide. It covers so many things. So to really create a platform to cover safety in its entirety, I believe is one of those impossible tasks. Okay, but I have narrowed it down to 6 components that I believe are integral to our everyday lives, our everyday existence, for us to build better communities, have safer homes, and even safer interactions with each other.
Before we even go into it, I just want to ask you one of the questions. With all the different kind of safety, road safety, personal safety, water safety, rescue, all of them, which one is your preferred one? Or is there a specific one that you like, you just have that little for? I mean, all of us have that little for something in what we do.
Do I have a favorite one? It's a tough choice. Why I say that, because life goes through phases, and with life, the phases of safety will come into play. For instance, personal safety. I have to be safe before I can help you. I have to be safe before I can help anyone. So to say personal safety is my favorite because it's the first thing I must think about, my safety. I can easily say that's my favorite. But then, over the years, as I got more into my career and different aspect of it pops up, um, I'm realizing that different aspect of it, I form a bond to it. For instance, fire safety. I'm a trained firefighter for the last 12 years, and that have really stood out for quite a bit of that 12 years because that's what I've been doing. Prior to that, spending 10 years, a little over 10 years at EMS, doing emergency medical care, I would tell you medical safety would have been probably my passion then. So going through phases, the favorites would pop up. But if I should have to really be forced to pick one, I would go to personal safety because of the fact that my safety is first. I must be safe before I can help anyone. You, Nicholas, have to be safe before you can help anyone. So personal safety is always paramount. And with that, you can easily manage any of the other areas that I've mentioned.
So tonight, what we're going to do, we're going to take them one at a time.
Mhm.
We need to know, and I know disaster is upon us, and
Definitely.
normally we have a lot of that. When it's not one, it's the other. And even if it doesn't happen to us directly, our neighbors most of the time need a hand, and we respond, and we have to respond accordingly. So let's deal with disaster first. Disaster safety.
Disaster safety. As you know, there are different types of disasters. For many years, we've been taught there are two main categories, man-made and natural. Over the years, another category have slipped in, known as technological disasters. We live in a technological world. That's what we're actually doing now, the use of technology. And we have situations where systems have been hacked, pretty much cripple hospitals, major infrastructure, power grids. So these are disasters that can affect us in so many ways. But if we should focus more on the two main traditional of natural and man-made disasters, As if you look in the background, you see types of disasters: disaster readiness and disaster response. We must know what to be do to be in order to be ready for various disasters. The response and the level of readiness for each disaster could vary. Okay? I remember easily the most part of last year, we were under drought. And I think, if I recall correctly, I've heard so far for the year, we're venturing into that. Again, even though we had that lovely downpour, I think it was around November 10th last year, 9th or 10th, that really filled up our reservoirs and crippled the drought to a certain extent. We are back there. So how do we prepare for drought? Drought is a natural disaster. And from all predictions, we will be going through that phase even more. How do we prepare? The laws of Antigua, well, the building code of Antigua have stipulated we must have water catchments. It is part of the code that if you're building your home, you must have some form of water catchment. Some persons have actually increased it, whether by tanks or cistern. You must have that because we must be in a position to either limit the effects of droughts. The government here have invested heavily in RO, reverse osmosis plants, to really counter the effects that drought has brought upon us. So it is something that we have to live with. We have been living with it for years, and we have to look forward to continue to realize that drought will be a part of our existence going forward. So we have to be ready. We have to be in some level of prepared state to really accommodate the rains when they come. Over the years, I've seen a number of ponds, dams popping up in Antigua, water catchment, major water catchment. So it is telling me that the message of drought is really hitting home in Antigua, and we're getting in that state of readiness for when the rain comes to really mitigate against us really in a really bad situation of not having water readily available. And we know water is a vital part of our lives, our everyday life. There's no way of getting away from that. The hurricane season, the Atlantic hurricane season is mere weeks away, if you want to put it that way. It officially starts June 1st. We are now the early part of April. So we're looking at just a few weeks ahead. And from all predictions, it's going to be a rough few months again.
But
Luckily, last year we was been.
It's not just that we're looking at June 1st and with the hurricane season, but we're looking at that we're still in a state of emergency dealing with a pandemic.
Exactly. And that even complicates what normally is a complicated process. And that's how disaster management works. You have to learn how to function as normal as possible in chaos. Okay, so we have to prepare. The 2021 Atlantic hurricane season is upon us. It was just a few months ago we were saying, oh, we escaped. But we are back here again, June 1st. And from all predictions, it seemed to be heading down the road, maybe not as bad as last year, but it only takes one. All it takes is one. And if we think back on Irma, that struck Barbuda a few years ago, luckily Antigua escaped the brunt of it. But all it took was one storm to really change that mindset that we have where hurricanes are concerned. Dominica will tell you about Maria. Okay. And these are just some of the natural phenomena that we have to deal with if we are going to exist. There's talk in the Met world of making the hurricane season start much earlier. So that is to show the gravity of the situation. The storms and history have shown us that storms have started before June 1st. So bringing it up early is saying to us, earlier than normal, is saying to us, we now have to be prepared pretty much year round, because as we know, we have had storms in January, way outside of the normal season, ending season of November. So pretty much we should be in a year round prepared state for hurricanes. Start your planning process, get your plans together, your food, your shelter arrangement, whatever it takes, not for you, your family, your friends. Some persons will have to work, as you know, Nicole, we are frontliners, so we will have to be out there some way or the other. And these are just some of the realities that we have to deal with. If we look at St. Vincent, our neighboring Caribbean island, who have been undergoing this threat of volcanic eruption now for a few months, somewhere the latter part of last year to now, they're at the brink of an explosive eruption. When it's going to happen, no one knows, but they are preparing. They're doing their best to put those that mainly would be affected, and I'll say pretty much the entire nation, because even though it doesn't directly affect you, there are a lot of indirect consequences. And there's talk on the political realms of neighboring islands willing to take persons if necessary. I would tell you that I was a victim of the volcanic situation in Montserrat. So I know the fallout from this and the reach of neighboring islands to help. I'm in Antigua today because of that goodwill. So we have to look at natural disasters affecting everybody, affecting everything. You did mention the COVID pandemic that is upon us, that even complicates it, but we have to function. We talk about social distancing in respect to COVID. Now we look at shelters. How do you put people into a shelter and say, hey, maintain that 6 feet distance, social distancing? But in some way, the mechanism has to be devised to minimize the risk as much as possible to bear out the grunt of a hurricane if it comes our way. So it's response. Sorry, it's readiness.
Readiness.
It's response. Response by the emergency agencies, fire, police, EMS, customs, immigration, prison, and its response by communities. I would tell you over the years, I have worked along with NODS, and one of the things that they have really done is to push the response level of training in the communities. Because face it, when a disaster strikes, communities will come together, they will respond before the major responding agencies. So
That is one
it
thing that
will
is
be,
guaranteed.
that is
That's
guaranteed.
guaranteed. Yeah.
It is. And with that, the training now helps them to learn how to operate safely in those situations, because we know it's going to be ad hoc. We know people are just going to try their best to save lives, save property, whatever it takes, but it still must be done safely. It still must be done coordinated, because if it is not, then you end right back up with a disaster within a disaster. Okay, and these are some of the things that you're trying to avoid. But like I said, the disaster office have really pushed over the years community response training. And that is integral for us to really know how to respond in the event of most natural disasters.
As our natural disasters, well, for us, we most frequently face hurricanes. There is a program going on in Dominica where a number of persons are being trained, and I think some are being certified as ham operators. And that similarly is a very interesting subject or area of development in Dominica, given its geographic nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, the locals will normally respond first before the experts or the professionals. But because part of the reason for that again is that the locals, they're very much aware of of, of their place, and they can navigate the place without that huge bulk of equipment. But we, like you said, we still have the expertise. They still need to be taught in a particular manner to keep it safe and not create another disaster. Because we've seen local response in other countries that are very effective.
Very effective, yes. And I would tell you, looking at Cuba, I could tell you Cuba is a prime example of excellent disaster response. Cuba have one of the best disaster response um, plans in the entire world. Very coordinated, very effective. Some may look at it and say the political influence of democracy versus autocracy, but the plan works. And that is what you need in the event of a disaster. You spoke of ham operators. I would tell you, My knowledge is a bit limited to the intricate details of it, but what I know for a fact is that ham radio have stood the test of time in disasters. That definitely has been proven. Don't know how active is the local association here, but I know there is a local association, and pretty much in just about every Caribbean island, you will find ham operators, and they communicate excellently with each other. Um, from my knowledge, they're very simple to set up and get up and running in times of disaster because we know communication is an integral part of that of disaster
Definitely.
management. Get the quicker you can get communication going, is the better for you. We look at technology. Satellite phones have become a norm now, but there are some downsides to satellite phones due to weather conditions, cloudiness, and all of that. But ham operated radios have proven to really have its worth when it comes to disaster. And I say it is a worthwhile investment in these organizations. I know a few persons who are heavily involved in this over the years, and not just for disasters in everyday operations. I have known of situations where they were able to pick up SOS calls by vessels and be able to
Yes,
relay that
definitely.
information to Coast Guard or the necessary authorities to respond. So it is a worthwhile investment that should be made in each country and really spread it out along communities so persons get more involved. I'm not sure how much advance it has really gotten in respect to technology, um, but it is something I would say definitely has worked, is continuing to work, and should be heavily invested in for future disasters.
So, so now, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with, or we have in our company tonight, Mr. Anderson Tuitt, the coordinator or the owner of Steps Antigua. Follow him on our social media platform, of course. He will let you know what social media platform he's on. Facebook. You're on Twitter? No. Facebook,
Yes, I'm on
Instagram.
Twitter,
Yeah.
Facebook,
Facebook,
Twitter,
Twitter,
Instagram,
Instagram,
and there's a YouTube
YouTube.
channel.
Okay,
Yes, I am there.
you're
But
fully covered.
yes, I try a bit because it's all about education and information. And when I really thought about this plan, because Steps is in existence now for about give or take 5.5 years. I've been doing this program. Well, officially, I would say that. But prior to that time, I would usually go out, do a number of lectures, have discussions with community groups, church groups, individuals, even a few business places also, to plan for disasters. How do you plan? So I've done that before, and then the idea just came up, hey, why not do it in a structured approach? And that is how STEPS really came about. And STEPS actually is the acronym for safety through education, prevention, and strategy. Okay, so it's not just steps, it's safety through education, because we must know what to do. Prevention, when you know what to do, then you can easily prevent yourself from getting harm. And strategy, and strategy is all about planning. So it's education, prevention, planning. Those three coming together would ensure that you have a good comprehensive plan for response in the event of any disaster or any unsafe situation, because it may not necessarily be a disaster. Okay, and that's where the STEPS safety awareness program really came into being. And like I said, I've been doing it now in a
For plenty
formal
years.
approach for the last 5.5 years, and it's been good. The COVID have really limited the face-to-face interaction that I've been doing over the years, and but that haven't stopped it, because what I've done now is to use the same platforms, social media platforms, and WhatsApp, because I do have broadcasts I send out from time to time, to continue to educate persons. And I also use the platform as a way of public information when it comes to COVID. COVID is a part of us. So the more, to me, the more platform that can get the information out is the better. And I do my best, my utmost best, to counter a lot of the misinformation that is out there. So when you see I share something, it's coming from credible sources. as much as possible, I include the source of the information because I want persons to realize that this platform is just not one of those that you just post anything and people read it and run with it. No, if you want to fact check my information, the source most times is there to really for you to go out there and say, hey, what he's saying is credible. And that is what we want. Because as we know, being on social media, there's a lot of misinformation. And for you to be able to find the credible sources, it's sometimes a needle in a haystack, and that's the concept that we're actually trying to change with that. So steps is something that I really love daily, and I continue to push on a daily basis as much as possible on a number of social media platforms.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Traffic TV. I'm your host, Neville Nichols. And this program is brought to you by our kind partners, Signs and Impressions, Upper Rakely Street, the quick print people. Anything you want to print, anything whatsoever you want to print, you just check them out on Upper Rakely Street. Also, you just move down a little lower down and everything safety, state insurance, they will design a policy for you. Or everything you want covered, they do that. You will get that from them. So we continue right along. We're going to be kind of picking the subjects we're going to do tonight. To our viewers who just joined us, like I said, you're listening to Traffic TV or you're watching Traffic TV, and we have with us Anderson Tuitt, certified safety personnel.
Yeah. Safe, like I said, it comes in different forms, so hey, no problem. Go ahead, feel free.
Certified safety personnel. Yes. So his utterances, you can fact check them too, and you should see that he is more than 99% correct. Traffic TV, we cannot leave the road out. We're gonna touch on the road safety, pedestrians, passengers, vehicle. We will consider whether or not we're going to touch into the fire aspect of it, but we definitely is going to give you some information on road safety, do's and don'ts. Of course, you know the pros and cons. If you walk across the road like you don't care, you're likely to get knocked down, and that's not a good thing. So
definitely,
we're going to let the certified personnel give us those information, you know. So we're going to touch on road safety.
Road safety, and that has been.
Hold your thought right there. Persons who would have been following social media again for the year so far, sometime later this week or into next week, I'm definitely going to bring the statistics up for what we have had for the year. But our year seemed to be pretty active. Our road seemed to be pretty active for the year so far. And hence you see, you should appreciate the importance of this little piece of information that's going to come up right now.
Yes, like you said, road safety. It's, how to put it? It's been at the forefront of most persons' mind in Antigua because over the years we've seen, one, the increase of number of vehicles on the road. Then we've seen the deterioration of many of the roads in Antigua. And then we've seen the upgrading of a few of the major roads in Antigua. And with that, or with all three of those, comes the challenges. With the increase of vehicles, we know there's going to be an automatic increase of drivers, especially inexperienced drivers. And we've seen how easy it is to import vehicles into the country in respect to that they're very cheap. So persons bring them in very easily and they get sold very easily. So then most households have vehicles. Then you look at, like I said, the more persons getting the license and they're inexperienced. So putting all those things together, it's creating a situation in our traffic management system in Antigua But it's not one of those situations that cannot be controlled, because it can be controlled. I would strongly advocate for a lot more public education. It seems as though some persons forget the highway code after a few years of driving. So some of the basic signs, basic skills that should be shown when driving, you just don't see it. And I can tell you for a fact, indicating is one of those things. As basic as it sounds, indicating left or right. And I'm sure many persons would agree that we are of the opinion that some vehicles have been manufactured without it. That indicates the lever, but we know that's not true. But personally of that opinion, because for many instances, you just do not see persons indicating to say whether they're going left or they're going right, or they're moving off from a stop. We've seen that so many times. But when I look at road safety in Antigua, and some person may not want to compare it, but I always like to compare things because it tells you where you're at. And one life lost is one life too many. But Antigua still stands out pretty much at the top in the region when it comes to road fatalities. Okay, and that is a good thing, but at the same time, one life lost is one life too many. So we're trying to maintain zero as much as possible. Okay, many of these accidents, from what I would have seen over the years, are unavoidable. Sorry, are avoidable. Distracted driving is a big issue. It's not just the cell phones. Yes, we have implemented a cell phone law recently. That's $500 if you're caught being on your phone while driving.
But it doesn't seem like that will affect anybody.
I would say yes. It's $500 in this COVID time. That's a heavy fine. That's a heavy fine. $500 in this COVID time, and I would say it is working to some extent. Not the full extent I would like to see, but it's a start. Let's put it that way. Because we have to start somewhere. We have to say, hey, it is a problem. Let's move forward. But the cell phone is not the only problem. Okay? The cell phone is not the only problem. Like I use the broad term of distracted driving.
Yep.
I have seen persons driving and eating, literally holding a food container in their hand at a traffic light. Yes, you might be at a standstill, but you're driving. You should be focusing. Vehicle moving, and I still have seen persons with a food container in their hand, or something in a plastic or foil paper. That is distracted driving. I have seen persons driving with pets in their laps.
That pet thing is starting to become more popular. Whereas now, some time ago, you used to see toddlers hanging their head out windows.
Yes,
or playing,
that seemed to have decreased.
Or playing with the driver's face. Now you see pets doing that.
Pets, exactly. And sorry for the pun, but I'll say that's my pet peeve. Because I hate to see it. It is very, very, very annoying, because it's hard enough to control a child, much less an animal. What happens is that animal, for instance, you're driving on the road, that nice animal is in your lap, and one of those heavy rolling rigs just want blow their horn. That frightens the dog suddenly. That dog probably jumps on you as the driver. What happens? You're getting yourself in some problems there. So
listen
that
to
animal.
Listen to this. I had an experience last week. I was talking to a guy who was in a collision. And you know what he said caused the collision? An insect.
An insect.
Yes, an insect. Right?
It's possible.
Got onto him, and he was so. How would I say that? He got so lost in trying to get the insect off of him. That he rear-ended the other vehicle.
Wow. It sounds funny on one end, but with my medical experience, I can say probably he's allergic to that insect, and he really don't want to get bit by that insect because it can go downhill very quickly for him. Or maybe he's just scared of that insect. So it can go either way. But yeah, it's just one of those things that definitely can cause, and it can happen. It can happen. I have known of cases where insects have caused collisions because person becomes scared of them. You have persons who are afraid of lizard, and just seeing a lizard on a windscreen
Or
can be
frog.
an issue. Or a frog. Oh yes, and we know those frogs are all over. Right? So yes, it can cause a distraction, and that's an unavoidable distraction. What I am referring to is the avoidable one, the one that we create, the distractions, the pet in your lap, or even in the front driver's passenger seat with next to you. These things can create some issues. Another issue I hate to see is children, young children between seats while you're driving. That one, it to me, it went a bit quiet for a while, but I'm seeing it popping up. I remember some years ago, I saw this lady, she had that child. Well, the child was actually in the front seat of the vehicle. And I asked her, "Do you love your child?" And she said yes. And she really found it strange by me asking her that. And I said to her, "Well, if you love your child, that child should be in the back seat, in a car seat, restrained. You driving in front, having that child in front in that seat, thinking that you are not going to get in an accident doesn't mean that somebody may not hit you. Because you may think you're the world's best driver, you're not going to get in an accident. That's for you to think about. But what about the other person out there? You cannot account for how they're driving. What happens if it just happened out of the blue, they slam into your vehicle? That child more than likely will become a rag doll. And sometimes I even see it where the child is so young that when they put the seat belt across the child, the seat belt sometimes come across their neck. That's a hazard. That can create some serious medical issues for that child if injured in a collision. Sometimes I've actually seen where the cross belt is placed behind of the seat and the child is restrained by just the lap belt. It's a no-no, right? These vehicles come with equipment, safety equipment for the protection of us, and they do come with guidance as to the weight, the size of the child before they are able to be sit in the front of a vehicle to be restrained by a seatbelt. So we have to take stock of how we move about in this country with children being between seats, in front seat when they should not be. Okay, car seats, they're costly, but you can't put a price on life. They are costly. There's no getting away from that. But you cannot put a price on life. So, and most of these car seats now, they come with what we call booster seats. So they actually adjust with the age and the height and the weight of the child. So they would be able, so by the time they come out of that booster seat, they should be able to fit comfortably in a regular seat. Okay. So it's for you to decide which one works best for you, see one on the market in respect to cost, but they are designed for that. The next factor we have to look at too is modern vehicles come with airbags. Now, if you have a child sitting in the front of a vehicle and that airbag is deployed, it can cause serious harm, if not death, to that child because the child's body and weight is not designed to withstand the impact of that airbag. And it can be the front airbag or it can be one of the side cushions because some vehicles have them at the side over the doors and so on. They can impact that child and really hurt that child seriously. So we have to look at these things. Even as an adult, I've seen persons who have been injured by airbags. So much less to a child that is sitting in the front seat who have no reason to be there and that airbag is deployed due to a collision. You already have that child moving around, plus the impact of that airbag. It can cause really serious harm to that child. And like I said, I am admonishing, I'm advocating, I'm telling persons, please desist from doing that. It is a deadly, deadly, deadly practice and it must be stopped.
Driving on the road. I don't know what drivers think sometimes. I don't know where they think they're trying to get, to be honest. And then the rules of the road, a lot of them, like you said earlier, they seem to have forgotten them as soon as they receive that little card called the driver's license.
The driver's
It's
license.
like, I think sooner or later they're gonna say that you're practicing like a medical practitioner or an attorney. You're always practicing. So they're gonna say you're not a driver, you're a practicing driver. You're gonna be practicing for the rest of your life.
It will be sad, but maybe good if after a few years they may say, okay, after retest.
Retest, yeah. You need to retest. Something have to be done definitely. Whether it's the way that it's done, but something have to be done. But we have another serious issue. This one without wheels. They're called pedestrians.
Pedestrians.
I have said on a number of occasions, I cannot wait for a jaywalking bill to be presented. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait for a jaywalking bill to be presented and made into law. I have actually heard persons say, make it knock me down now, see what kind of vehicle here drive. I'm like,
and I've heard it.
You serious? You serious?
I've heard it. Persons have actually said that. And we know the old saying that person would say, hey, you ever see a car up hospital? But for me, it's a twofold with the jaywalking law. I have no issues with the jaywalking law because we have to hold pedestrians accountable for their actions. Just like how drivers are held accountable for their actions for driving. So you as a pedestrian, you must be held accountable for walking, especially if you're just going to deliberately walk in the road because you figure it's best. But at the same time, we're saying jaywalking laws, we have to look at the access persons have to walk on roads, sidewalks. How accessible are some of these sidewalks? Another big problem we have is persons parking on sidewalks. I've seen it many a time at a number of major functions to around the country. You see persons just park up their Jeep, they pick up everything on the sidewalks. Now, if I'm a pedestrian coming down the road, where am I supposed to walk? But in the road. So to me, it comes twofold. If we're saying jaywalking laws, we must have the access for persons to move about, and we still have to incorporate the disabled also, because I've seen persons struggled in wheelchairs to get access. So it will be twofold. So if you want me to move from the road and walk on the side, give me that access also. So it all comes in a holistic approach of saying jaywalking, sidewalks. So that if you're telling me stay out the road, give me some place to walk that is safe for me to walk. That must be done for me first and foremost. Create the access. So then I have no excuse for walking in the road. Okay? Penalty, of course, a penalty must come as a pedestrian and you willfully decide to walk in the road. I remember a case distinctly out of Florida where 2 young boys were killed by a speeding car. When the matter went to court, they wanted, I think initially the driver was charged for vehicular homicide and speeding. But when the matter went to court, the vehicular homicide was...
Vehicular homicide, according to them, is the same thing that we call causing death by dangerous.
By dangerous driving.
Yeah, right. Causing death.
And when that matter went to court, the vehicular homicide charge was dismissed. Why? Because the 2 boys did not cross the road where they are supposed to legally cross, which was the pedestrian crossing. They crossed outside of that. And they were struck by that speeding car. And the guy got convicted on speeding and he was just fined, and that was it. There was nothing else for the driver to be held responsible for in respect to a criminal negligence or anything in with those 2 boys. It is sad, but that's what the law says, because the law says you are supposed to cross on the pedestrian crossing, and the 2 young boys did not. It is a sad reality. But if we are going to say we're a tourist country, we're coming into the era of welcoming persons to our shores, our locals are well-traveled persons, they see these rules and regulations out there, we must have it here. So we must start to adapt I must say with the new road improvement that I've seen, the pedestrians crossings are quite visible. And I do hope that person utilize them as much as possible. And I will put the onus on transport board also to ensure that these roads are kept marked. Because we know that's a challenge that we've had over the years with the road not being properly marked or not marked at all. So that also plays its part in the whole aspect of road safety. We need the markings. We need lights. There's still a lot of roads that are dark, or some that have the lights but they're not working. All that form part of road safety. So the driver has a responsibility, the pedestrian has a responsibility, the government, transport board, holistically, we all have responsibilities ensuring that persons traverse our roads, our highways, our byways as safely as possible. But then I go back to the initial statement where I made education is key. And I've seen that you've done some work where I look at Fries Hill Road, for example, the lanes on Fries Hill Road. A lot of persons are still not familiar with them. And I would like to think they're not familiar more than to think that they're just deliberate in their actions. Okay, I would want to think that they're more not familiar with them, but it comes with time. Okay, but education, road safety education is paramount. We need more of it out there, not only from the police. We have a number of non-governmental organizations. We have a number of persons out there in our society who have been pushing this. One comes to mind. It's my good friend Lisa. Lisa Liz. She has been doing the racing beautician. Hey Lisa.
Beautician.
Oh yes, she has been out there. She has been advocating, and the road safety group, those have been there for years, have been pushing the issues of road safety. And there are other groups that once we come together, we can actually control how persons utilize our roads and ensure that they're utilized in a safe manner as possible.
That was a mouthful, we should say, for road safety. And as I say, we should learn to we should learn to appreciate the information that is being given here by persons who are in the know. And for some of us who just blatantly disregard or ignore, there's a saying that say, you never feel it until it knocks on your door. And when it knocks on your door, then you will know. The old people would say, then you would know what the time is. Because that is the time that it's knocking you.
That is knocking.
So tonight has been a very, very interesting program. What we're going to do tonight, we do have a lot of information to disseminate, and we're going to split this thing down in half. So we're going to do 3 segments tonight, and we definitely promise to come back and bring another segment. So the other segments. And the next one we will be looking at is we'll look at water. 365 beaches. A lot of persons going to the waterfront. There are quite a number of persons who cannot swim, and that kind of thing. But we also want you to know that you're listening to Traffic TV, or you're watching Traffic TV. I'm your host, Neville Nichols, and we have with us the safety expert, Anderson Tuitt. That's another title. Yeah, don't worry about that. You'll get a number of them. And this program is brought to you by the kind compliments of our good people at Signs and Impression, the quick print people on Upper Redcliffe Street. All your printing need, they do that for you. Just call them, visit their office. Of course, they will show you all the designs. They have graphic designers on hand and all that stuff for you. They'll sort you out. And also with State Insurance Company Limited, they put you in a better state of mind for all your insurance need. You just check them out. You'll get a policy that fits your pocket. So, to it, our final segment for tonight, we're doing water safety. How well, I'm not going to question your swimming capabilities, right? But how well can you swim?
I can swim. I can swim.
So you're leaving it at that? You can swim?
I'm leaving it at that, yes. I was taught to swim and I can swim. How long? For how long? How far? That's a different argument, but I can swim.
It depends on the circumstances, what the conditions require.
What they require, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I know my limitations.
Yeah.
But yes, water
That's something that's very
safety.
important to know. That's very
It
important
is.
that you know your limitations.
You know your limitation. And sadly, over the Easter weekend, I was reading I'll have to say a colleague of mine, because when you're a firefighter, you're a firefighter anywhere you go. When you're a police officer, no matter if the police is from Australia, is from the US, from UK, they're seen as your brothers, your sisters, your colleagues, because we're all in that one profession. And sadly, over the weekend there in Trinidad, I was informed that a firefighter actually drowned trying to save a family member of his. And some
Wow.
years ago, I think he had a brother also who died due to drowning. So with 365 beaches, water safety should be a major issue for Antigua and Barbuda. It should be. It is not. Um, Thankfully, we haven't had a number of drownings, well, a large number. Ever so often, we find one or two pop up, especially on holiday weekends. Well, we all know the COVID situation for the last year, so beaches have pretty much been closed during public holidays, but it can happen at any time. The thing is, I can tie in water safety in respect to beaches, not only beaches, but we've had drownings in ponds. Remember earlier I spoke of drought, and we have a number of water catchments around the island. We now have to ensure that our children, sadly, but more so our boys, the saying goes, boys will be boys,
And fun is their thing.
and pond is their thing. And pond is not just used for pleasure, it's used for recreation. There's fishing activity that takes place in ponds also. So persons would go and fish. But water safety, I can tie it in two ways for the beaches, and I can look at it from the aspect of flooding also. But I wouldn't use flooding tonight, because that would is a natural disaster. So on itself, it has its own safety rules that should be followed, but some can be utilized in everyday situation when it comes to water safety. So I think that as a country, we need more education on the types of drowning, and the different types of drowning. Actually, persons believe that there's just one type. No, there's different type. Where the one we traditionally have come to know is the one that where water goes into your lung, you're unable to breathe. But there's another type, that's what we call the wet drowning. There's the another one called the dry drowning, where there's actually no water in your lungs,
So how you
but
drown if there's no water?
the
Don't you always drown in water?
the
Or
muscles, not
or don't
necessarily,
or
but
don't
you're in
drown
water.
or don't drowning always
Yes,
go
but
with
there's a
water?
slight difference. Why it's called dry drowning is because you're actually in a body of water, but the water haven't entered your lungs, but you
Okay.
drown. There's a condition known as laryngospasm, where the muscles in your throat will contract very fast and do not allow you to breathe, do not allow air to pass. So if air is not passing, it means water cannot pass. So it shuts off your lung. It comes more from a panic response if the person, let's say, is in water, whether in a tub, whether in a beach, whether in a pond. So it shuts off the air supply because the muscles start contracting very, 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 very fast. Okay? So with that, what happens now? Air is unable to pass. And if air is unable to pass, it means then that you cannot breathe. But it's considered dry drowning because no water is inside of your lungs, but you're in a body of water. So it usually occurs from someone going to a state of panic. Okay, so that's why it's called dry drowning, because of the absence of water in your lungs. And there's a third one that is known as secondary drowning. Now this one is a bit tricky, because what can actually happen is that you can consume water in your lungs. It happens quite a bit in children. For instance, there's what we call a near drowning episode, where the person or the child might swallow some water at that moment in time, and we think, okay, they cough and they're fine. But a few hours later, they may start to develop some issues, whether breathing issues, chest pain, tightness to their chest, maybe some vomiting. What is happening there is that the water is in their lungs, and the lung recognize it as a foreign body, meaning I should not be there. Something is in here that shouldn't be there. And the lung now is trying to get that water out. And with that, it can create chest pains, the vomiting, the signs and symptoms I've mentioned before, which now require that person to go to the hospital, which would require some medical intervention to try to get that water out. And if that doesn't happen within time, that person can die a few hours to even days later. That's why it's called secondary drowning, because it happens after what we call a near drowning episode. Okay, so they're different. They're a little more, two or three of them. Okay, but on the face value, that's basically what those three drownings tend to indicate. Also, persons need to know, um, when you look at water, it's beautiful. When you look out at the beaches, our 365 beaches, they're lovely. The problem is you must be able to know your limitations, know what you can do from what you cannot do. And that is very, very, very important. Know how far out in the water you can go, because height is an issue. Your experience in water is an issue. Can you swim? How well can you swim? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
did you ever had a near drowning situation?
As in me personally having one?
Yeah.
No, I've never had one.
Okay, but you would have experienced persons in those situations.
Yes, I have had
As a
situations to
response
deal with
person.
persons. Yes, as a response person, I've had to deal with persons who have had, and I've actually witnessed one or two also.
To extract them from the water body?
No, I've never had that opportunity of actually rescuing anyone who would have had a near drowning episode. No, I haven't had that, but I've responded to do medical intervention.
Okay.
But it's not one of those things that I would say you want to see, because it can be very upsetting at times. And when I say upsetting, you tend to find that person vomit a lot with near drowning, because the body's trying to get that water out. And if it happens a short space of time after lunch or breakfast or dinner, whatever, you're seeing that coming up. Okay, especially if you're doing medical interventions and that is coming up, it's not a pretty sight. And scent also, that I would say it doesn't smell too pleasant. But it's the nature of the job that you have to deal with. But I would recommend to persons, the general public, get involved in getting to know how to swim, even just the basics. And swimming to me has no age limit. From pretty much birth, I've seen videos of persons teaching children just a few weeks, months old, how to swim. And in some aspect, it comes naturally, because if you think about it, that child would have been in the womb in fluid, moving around. And then you look at women giving water deliveries, right? Trying to keep that child in that same environment. So you find that children, weeks old, months old, put them in water, hey, they learn very, 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 very quickly, and they pretty much keep that for life. Elderly, well, it has its wellness benefits. So there's no age to learning how to swim. I have a very good friend of mine who recently, as an adult, started to swim. Okay, and she's relishing every moment of it and say, wow, this is what I didn't do over all these years. Okay,
well, I learned to swim about 14.
At 14. I learned before that. Okay, and the thing is, we don't have a shortage of persons to teach us how to swim, because there are a number of swim groups, there are a number of church groups who have persons who know how to teach swimming in these youth groups. So we virtually have no excuse for not knowing. In my estimation, we virtually have no reason to say, hey, we cannot swim. So I would admonish as much as possible, if you'll enjoy, and we know persons enjoy going to the beach. The question is, if we have 1,000 people on a beach, how many persons out of that 1,000 can actually swim? But they go to the beach and they go into the water. And more so, some of them actually going intoxicated too, or alcohol, would have had alcohol, and that's a definite no-no. Okay, and we must also be aware of the conditions of the beaches or the water bodies. For instance, there's this old saying, still water runs deep. And if you
Pond.
look at our ponds, exactly, they may look shallow, but quite a few of them have depth. In recent times with the drought, I've actually been able to see the depth of some of these ponds and didn't realize that they were this deep. Okay, so persons must be aware. I know for a fact from time to time the Met Office usually put out warnings for hazardous seas, high surf advisories, small craft advisories. So it is for us to follow them. If you're going to the beach with our families, even just pick up the phone, give the Met Office a call, say, hey, is it safe to swim at this beach? Because sometimes it's not all the beaches are affected by the weather conditions. You may have beaches on the eastern side affected and not the western side, and vice versa. So all it takes is for us to pick up our phone or even go online, check our Met Office, and see if there are any advisories out regarding the beaches and act accordingly. I definitely would advise that. Going back to the ponds, I will say boys will be boys, and the history have shown us that most of boys have had some devastating incidents at our ponds, but it doesn't take away from girls also. But we just need to be very, very, very cautious. Very cautious. I know right now we're in the COVID, so person looking for outlets all over. And fishing has become a very prominent one once again in the ponds now that water levels have really reached back up to a norm to engage in fishing. So person must be careful. I admonish buying a life jacket. That is very, very important. Life jackets do save lives. So that is something that must be used. Recently, we've had some incidents with jet skis that have been an issue in respect
Oh,
to how
jet
close they are
skis.
coming to shore, where persons are
Swim
swimming
zone.
and just having a good the swim zone. And if I recall correctly, I think the Adams, the Department for Marine Services, have put some regulations in place to really restrict how far into the shore they come, where persons are swimming, and have put some guidelines. I think they've had a few meetings with the owners and renters of these watercrafts to ensure that safety is maintained on our beaches. So that is a good improvement, but I still do see some recklessness happening, just like how it's happening on the road, it's happening on the seas with these watercrafts. We've had fishing vessels also who are going out without the necessary safety gear, radios, flares, GPS equipment. Okay, and
And
these are
life jacket.
standard, these are and life jackets, and these are standard and mandatory equipment. Okay, so it's all that. It's just, we as persons accessing the beach, watercraft operators, it's a holistic approach that must be taken to water safety. And I must say that I have seen some improvement. Better can be done, and I hope that we continue to see the improvement so that our beaches remain safe for us who are using it and persons adhere. I know for a fact the lifeguard division have been doing their part also in ensuring that swimming persons are swimming in the areas, because some beaches might seem very good, but they are restricted areas because of probably rip currents or maybe reefs or a lot of rocks. So I admonish persons listen to the advice and instructions given by lifeguards that are posted on the various beaches or even the beach security personnel. All of that helps in how we access our beaches in a very safe manner.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Traffic TV, and tonight we're dealing with safety. We take our three main points tonight that we deal with water safety. Well, we dealt with disaster first, then we dealt with road safety, and now we're doing water safety. And we have in our company tonight Mr. Anderson Tuitt, the, how should I say that? Should I say this?
The
Certified.
director for steps.
You know how long I've been
Just
going to
leave it
say
at
that?
that.
The director for STEPS. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, STEPS is a platform that is used for disseminating information on all safety issues, local, regional, and international. Yeah, he's heavily tied. And tonight's program is brought to us by the kind compliments of Science and Impression, the print people on Upper Redcliffe Street, and as I stated earlier, they print any and everything. Trust me when I say that. Don't worry about that. You got state insurance. Just buy some insurance and you will be great. Actually, insurance is for the persons that are going to benefit. So if you buy motor insurance, of course, comprehensive is always the best. Choose that one, you know. So we're here and we're winding down. There's just something that I want Mr. Tuitt to elaborate for us a little bit. Water competencies. What is that?
Water competencies pretty much speaks to how your behavior, your attitude around water. Remember I spoke early of alcohol. Alcohol and water bodies are a no-no. You must be able to conduct yourself appropriately when you're at the beaches. If you know or you see anybody that has been drinking heavily, you should do your best to stop them from entering into the water. It also goes to your skill level. Remember I spoke of knowing your skills, what you can do and from what you can do. You asked me earlier, can I swim? And I said, yes, I can swim. How far can I swim? How deep can I dive? All of that encompasses competencies. So it's not a matter of you just say, oh, I'm going to the beach, I can dive, show off. No, you must know your abilities. You must know how competent you are and safe to be able to deal with not only yourself, but sometimes in the event that somebody gets into trouble where water is concerned, children. And I would admonish here definitely that parents, guardians, persons in general, when you are charged with the responsibility of looking after children in the around water, don't have devices, your cell phone, your laptop, your tablets. Those are a definite no-no.
That's
Anything
distracted
can
baby.
happen.
That's distracted babysitting.
Exactly. And when you have a child around water, they will be tempted to try any and everything, and that can just change everything very, 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 very quickly. So don't be distracted while monitoring children around water. But your competencies, your skill set, knowing how, when to say, hey, I can do this, or I can, and just saying, hey, I have to back off. We have seen over the years a person get into trouble in the water and somebody decide they're going to try and save them. And there have been cases where the person that went to
Samaritan die.
rescue, exactly, or both of them end up dying. So yes, we know the adrenaline kick in and you may figure, okay, I can do this, right? But you must remember your safety, because your skill set, your competency to be able to maneuver around water if anything happens must come to the fore.
Water do's and don'ts. Don't drink.
Don't drink. Don't be
If you,
distracted around water.
if you can't swim, stay in the sand.
that is one. Just go to the beach, probably soak your legs. Just go. You can actually enter into the water, but know your limit. No, hey, I cannot swim, so I can't go beyond my waist. I don't want no water parts in my waist. And you have persons like that, right? So those are the don'ts. Don't do it. Just know your limitation. Alcohol, I still think, is a major factor. It hasn't caused any major issues, but I'm very concerned about it because we know on the beaches, well, since the COVID, it haven't, but I'm looking down the road when the state of emergency is lifted and people want to get back to the norm of things, saying, hey, I'm hitting the beach, I'm having a party, alcohol.
That's
Know
the
your
life of the
limit.
party.
Look out for person. Exactly. It's bad enough during the day and it's worse during the night. Like a person will probably have a bonfire on the beach wanting to have celebrations, walk away, and before you know it, because of the intoxicated state,
And
they
then
end up
somebody
in the
missing.
water. Exactly. So if you know somebody is drinking or around water, please keep an eye on them or remove them totally from the water or anywhere close to the water. Okay. Do pay attention, like I said, to weather reports. In recent time, we've seen quite a bit of them popping up, small crafts advisory, hazardous seas, popping up. So wave action. That can really be a big issue. Rip currents. Some of our beaches have very subtle rip currents that can take you under in less than no time. So please pay attention to the weather reports. Do listen, do get informed, call the Met Office or check their website or their Facebook page to get updated on weather reports before you go to the beach, to make sure that it is safe for you to stay in areas where lifeguards are present, or go to a beach where lifeguards are present. I think most of our beaches, popular beaches, lifeguards are present there. So please do and heed the instructions of our lifeguards or beach security or even persons that are in the know where swimming is concerned.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have had a night full of information, loads of information, and we only covered 3 sections of our safety manual. We are watching Traffic TV, and we're talking safety tonight with Mr. Anderson Tuitt, the Director of STEPS. And he will be back, yes. So we will tell you, follow Traffic TV, like the page, share the page, recommend it, leave your comment, WhatsApp us if there's any subject you want us to discuss, send it to us. We will put it into something. We will find the professionals to come and give you the information. And we cannot live without telling you that this program is brought to you by the kind compliments of Signs and Impression, the quick print people on Upper Redcliffe Street. Yeah, they print everything. And State Insurance, putting you in a better state of mind, of course. Just go there, get your motor, get your medical, get whatever insurance you want. State Insurance is the one you should be, and you should know that State Insurance is 100% local. So you should know that, and yeah, come home to local and utilize it. Mr. Tuitt, your last words.
My last word, I would say, just like how we have the slogan of tourism is everybody's business, safety is everybody's business. You have to be safe first. I have to be safe first before I can help anyone. So your safety is priority. It is your number one priority to be safe. Find us on our usual platforms of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. STEPS, STEPS, Safety Awareness Program. And like our motto says, staying steps ahead. And that's how you stay ahead of any unsafe situation, by staying educated, staying informed, knowing what is happening around you. So staying steps ahead, and I would admonish to everyone, continue to be safe, adhere to the established protocols where COVID is related. We all have a responsibility to keep ourselves safe and our families and friends safe, right? So I say thank you, Mr. Nichols, for being here. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to our next encounter for the next 3 safety issues.
Definitely, and it's been wonderful. I cannot express how I feel with you being here with us, and it's been in the making, and it's been done. We will continue to educate the public in whichever way we can. And like I said earlier on, folks, go to our page, follow the STEPS page, follow the Traffic TV page. You will be kept abreast with all the latest development on where traffic is concerned on Traffic TV. You will find that. If you go to STEPS, regional, national, regional, and international aspects where disaster safety is concerned, you will find that on the STEPS page. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Neville Nichols, your host for tonight, saying have a good night. See you next time. Goodbye.